Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate and heading down to a very intriguing matchup. Notre Dame heading on the road to play the Clemson Tigers. And this is a game that, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're feeling good about it, but you're also recognizing that this is still a Clemson team that, even though the record is not that great, it's an extremely talented team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This is a big game for Marcus Freeman and this Notre Dame team to kind of continue the momentum they have found down the stretch in this season. And I think this speaks volumes about Marcus Freeman. Like Marcus Freeman, you saw some growing pains as a young head coach, given the keys to a massive program like Notre Dame. But to get off the mat after some disappointing losses early on in the year and go route USC and look the way they are heading into this back half of the season, I'm really high on what Marcus Freeman can do with this Notre Dame program. And for Clemson, really just trying to find some answers. Before we get into the matchup, though, again, just want to say thank you to you guys. Again, the support y'all have shown for all of these game breakdowns, it's been amazing. I love talking ball. I love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, we'd love to hear your picks, predictions, keys to the game in the comment section. We'll chop it up there. And without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to start with this Clemson defense that has certainly not been the problem for the Clemson Tigers. And I think most Clemson fans would agree with that. You look at some of the advanced numbers here, 4.4 yards per play given up. That is number 12 in the country. You look at the back end. This is a team that's only given up 5.7 yards per pass. That is number 6 in the country. Nate Wiggins playing like an All-American cornerback. You have an elite front seven with a defensive line that's littered with NFL talent. And you look at the points per game metric, and that doesn't tell the full story because this Clemson offense has really struggled with turnovers. It's really struggled putting this defense in bad spots. But this defense for Clemson has been elite. And you even go back to the loss against NC State. Clemson only gave up 200 total yards of offense on the defensive side of the ball, and they still come out with a loss because this offense really struggling. Now, looking at Notre Dame and how they match up with the Clemson Tigers, it's no secret what Notre Dame wants to do. They want to run the football, and they're running into a very good front seven for Clemson. Can they establish the run? Audric Estime, he's been that dog, but they got a bunch of other really good running backs. If you follow recruiting and some of the youngsters you might know, Jeremiah Love be my personal favorite for Notre Dame. I think Price has been really good. This is probably the biggest matchup of this game. This Notre Dame team, when they struggle to run the football, we've seen this offense struggle, right? Louisville coming to mind. But if this Notre Dame team can get it going on the ground, that is when their offense is most successful. And you're going to see a matchup of good on good, right? Joe Walton, this Notre Dame offensive line, going up against a very good Clemson defensive line. Now, in the passing game, one thing you got to know, Mitch Evans out for Notre Dame. He has been an absolute stud for Notre Dame. He's been Sam Hartman's favorite target to go to. You're going to be leaning on the tight end room I like. Like, they've recruited some really good players, but you're going to be leaning on some youngster wide receivers to go on the road and really produce against a Clemson secondary. That is really good. Sam Hartman has brought another element to this Notre Dame offense, and looking at some of the numbers, I mean, what I'm most impressed with, Sam Hartman's solid completion percentage, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. What I love most about this offense, 9.1 yards per pass. That's number 11 in the country. So they are hitting some explosive plays down the field, which going back to last year was their massive bugaboo. Like if it wasn't going to Michael Mayer kind of towards that intermediate route tree, they were not hitting any explosive plays through the air. And I think this year, Notre Dame has done a really good job establishing the run and then hitting that deep shot behind defenses. I would look to see Notre Dame continue that against, again, what is a really good defense for the Clemson Tigers that, quite frankly, does not give up a lot of deep balls. Now, flipping sides, this is probably one of the bigger mismatches that you see. This Clemson offense, starting with them, just I don't need to tell Clemson fans, it's been ugly. You look at some of the numbers, 23.4 points per game. That is number 82 in the country, only 5 yards per play. That's 93rd in the country. And the worst part about this is not only is this offense really lacking efficiency and hitting those explosive plays, but it's also just not, when they do hit those explosive plays and they move the ball and they get into the red zone, they're one of the worst teams in the red zone, only scoring on 66% of their red zone opportunities. That's 126th in the country. Now, there are a bunch of problems to dig into, but when you take the bird's eye view, you're struggling to move the ball, you're struggling to hit the explosive play, and when you do get the ball moving and get into the red zone, you're not putting touchdowns and points up on the board. That's not great. Now, I think Kate, we'll start with the quarterback in that passing attack. One, the offensive line has been a massive disappointment for the Clemson Tigers. This was an offensive line that I thought had a chance to be the best group in the ACC. They've been really struggling in pass protection and getting that run game going. And Cade Klubnik for lack of better terms, looks kind of lost out there. And I don't know what you got to take a deep look into this Clemson coaching staff and kind of figure out why we've missed on. I'm not saying the ship has sailed on Cade Klubnik. That being said, DJU didn't get developed to the point where you wanted him to. And Cade Klubnik certainly doesn't look like he's getting developed into that 5-star quarterback that he was thought to be coming out of high school. I think the bigger or an equally big problem is the passing attack has really lacked any sort of explosion either. Like, you talk about the importance of hitting explosive plays and being able to go 5 plays, 80 yards and score a touchdown, as opposed to 12 plays, 80 yards, where a lot of bad things can happen in those 12 plays. The Clemson Tigers, 62% completion percentage. That's 54th in the country. That's not a horrible mark. What is really concerning, 6.3 yards per pass. That is 102nd. They are not pushing the ball down the field. I mean, when you've seen the big plays happen, they've been going to Jake Bringenstool, which is a tight end. And when you're relying on your tight end to hit some of those big plays, that is 100% a problem for this Clemson offense. And the run game hasn't been great either. And obviously you have Will Shipley now battling a concussion. They're only averaging 3.9 yards per carry. That's 77th in the country. So you look at the passing game, not very explosive. You're struggling to run the football and protect the quarterback. I mean, these are all really bad recipes for Clemson. Just quite frankly, this offense only putting up 23.4 points per game. And so we'll talk more about Clemson in the offseason in terms of what's going on with this offense and, quite frankly, what we think this program needs to do differently. That's for a different time. You look at this Notre Dame defense, it's been really damn good. And a 16.9 points per game, that is top 15 in the country, 4.5 yards per play. That's number 14 in the country. And I'll give a shout out to a guy that we didn't talk much about in the offseason, has been phenomenal this year in Howard Cross. It just dominating the line of scrimmage, getting after the passer, stopping the run. This is a Notre Dame team that's been really good against the run, and it's been really good against the pass. And again, you take a look at the pillars of having a good defense. If you can stop the run, get teams in those third and long situations, and you have as good of a secondary as Notre Dame does, that's a really good recipe for having a good defense. You take a look at Morrison, Hart, Watts, DJ Brown in the back end. Name me a better secondary group in the country than what Notre Dame is trotting out. This is a Notre Dame defense that I think is very good and really only getting better over the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's a USC offense that averages 45 points per game, and Notre Dame gave them fits. And you look at Pitt, they couldn't move the ball worth anything against Notre Dame. So this is a defense that's really good. And getting to the pick here, Notre Dame coming in 2.5-point favorites. I'll say this. I think from a talent standpoint, these teams are very evenly matched. I don't think anyone would argue that. But from a vibes perspective, and I almost don't like this game being at home for Clemson because the fans are pissed. You guys heard the Dabo Swinney call with the fan. I could see the home field advantage, quote unquote, kind of not being exactly a home field advantage if it does not start well for the Clemson Tigers. You can hear the boo birds coming in. I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover the 2.5 points. And I'm again repeating myself. This is a very good Clemson team that is very capable of beating this Notre Dame team. But from a vibes perspective and from looking at both of these programs and who's playing winning football and who's not, Notre Dame is the team playing winning football. I'm going to take them to cover 2.5 points on the road. Really optimistic about where this Notre Dame team is going. And you look at Clemson, it's hard to find a lot of reasons to believe in this team going down into the second half of this season. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.